This is your end of day recap for Thursday, February 8th. Almost all the way through the trading week at this point. We've got one more day. And we will get through the themes of the day. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. I think, a couple of things that, I've had my eyes on this week is, basically just, the macro front, some of the internals of the market and, what's been performing. Which has kind of been the negative, right? Usually when you talk about macro, it is a little bit, to the negative side, right? Sometimes if I don't talk about bonds or if I don't talk about the dollar, that means these things are not a worry. If I bring them up, then we've got some issues, right? So that's kind of the negative right now in the market. Although the breadth was a little bit better today, and that brings us to the small caps, which led today, right? That's been the big complaint, is that there hasn't been this participation. And notice what the small caps did today. They were the IWM was up 1.5%. I always kind of take it a step further and look at what the micro caps did as well. Those were up 1.8%. You can see I've got a couple red things there. The one is the VIX, not a big deal. Continues to slide. The VIX is now under 13. But the dollar was up just a little bit, and bonds, which were down again today. The bond auctions, that's a third bond auction. I even thought today, I was like, well, the pattern has been when we have these three different big maturities, 3-year, 10-year, 30-year, which is what we had this week. I know they change it up from every now and then, but it's been the third one that's been causing the issues. But the bond auction, seemed to go pretty well. And again, I'm not a bond auction expert. I've never participated in a bond auction, but I try to pick up from different clues and different events from the market. But so bonds began to bounce, but they kind of gave it back. So I'm going to go over this chart first, just so we can get this out of the way, because I know people want to talk about other things, but I always want to talk about the risks in the market, right? And that's just just has to do with being a trader and being a risk manager, right? So for now, TLT, it's hanging in there. It's hanging in there at the bottom of the value area for the month of February. This darker shaded box that I've got here is based on the volume and the price from January. This larger box here is larger box here is based on so that is the value area for the whole year, and that is based on all of the price activity from 2023. So that becomes more significant, right? And that's basically where the price stopped and towards the end of January and bounced. We bounced. Unfortunately, we got right to that version point of control, right, and halted there, unfortunately, and now we're sitting there at the bottom of value. So reversal off of that, which we see from time to time with version point of controls. And by the way, if you want this type of chart setup for TradingView, I'm just going to stop here just for a quick minute, right? So you can go to marketwebs.com. We're very excited to have this out. I mentioned it briefly in yesterday's video, but you can, as of now, and we're going to change this by the end of the weekend, but for now, you can get 30 days free, right? And you could cancel it before if you decide that this is not for you, but you could, basically debut this for free and go through and, set up version point of control. I mean, you don't have to set them up. Everything is automatic, but you do have to load the script in, or just select on the script in the technicals field. But we'll also be giving we're going to be giving a webinar for people who do sign up and want a little bit more background or want to know, all the different. Let me just get out of this really quickly. So again, that's marketwebs.com. But as you could see, when you click on these, right? So this is the yearly, right? You have all kinds of customization in here. I like the value areas from different time frames on my one chart. So that's the way I'm doing it. But there's a lot of customization, right? You can change the colors, you can change the shading, you could see the show market profile. right, on multiple time frames too. So it's pretty cool. Special thanks to Web Begol, who has been he's the programmer behind the scenes. I call him he's basically a wizard in terms of how he's done this, and his programming skills are phenomenal. And I wish I could code like that. But it's nice to know someone who does for many reasons. So so that's bonds, right? I get off track a little bit towards the end of the day here, but let's talk about like where we left off yesterday. Palantir, this was the stock of the day. It seems like we're getting these stocks of the day. Almost every day there's a different one. But I took profits in this Palantir. I had my target, right? I used the value area, the version point of control to tell me where there might be some overhead supply, and I took that off right there and then. And it's nice to have some trades. In my opinion, it's nice to have some trades that you're going to take off when they go from point A to point B, right? I don't do that for every trade, but for especially something that I don't trade a lot, and I'm in a momentum trade, I will generally tend to look at that. But let's look at the indices really briefly. I don't think we're going to learn too much here, other than we're grinding higher. We're starting to get overbought, but we're above the 5-period moving average, so we're trending, and there's not much there's not much to overanalyze with this stuff. So that's why we're going to go through it really quickly. Same thing with SPY. Like SPY and Qs are very easy charts right now, right? Price stays above the 5-period moving average, right? You follow the trend, right? And try not to freak out and do anything, for lack of a better word, dumb. Just keep it simple, and just try to stay long as long as price stays above the 5-day moving average. Now, again, you're not going to catch the absolute highs, and that's not really what we want to do in trend trading. IWM has been a different story. I mentioned that IWM outperformed, and the bullish 80% rule is in effect, right? And that's basically telling you that the top of value there is 197.76. I mean, in this situation, is back and forth as the price action is in IWM. I would kind of favor taking profits there if we had one more day of an up move into the top of value. Next big stock, right? So ARM, this is a name that's it's just amazing. This move today, which was what up. Where's the stats in this? Like up close to 50%. But again, pretty amazing. I was on Benzinga this morning talking about this stock. If you're a regular viewer of my video, you know that I got long like on this break all the way over here. And since then, I've tried to basically stay long. What I do in my trading a lot is I'll take targets on dips. I'll add back a little bit as long as I have conviction in the name. And I'll tell you, like my conviction was starting to wane a bit because it just wasn't performing as well as the rest of the group. I always look at relative strength, and I try to basically I try to move my positions towards where I see relative strength. So if you look at this SMH ETF, which has made huge strides this year, and you look at ARM, right? So this is how critical I am in my thinking. Now, I stayed in it because we did see I think that there was various reasons to stay in the stock to some extent. If you're into the option activity and so forth, they were accumulating calls in this one, and they weren't accumulating like the weekly calls. They were going out to like next year. So I kept seeing it on the tape, and to me, it was a head scratcher. Every time I saw the calls go up, the stock would go down. But at the end of the day, I just believed in the company, and I believed in the story. But I was not super long in this one, and I did take profits into this move today. I didn't get out of my whole position, but I took profits. I mean, the stock was up 50%. I'm going to take profits. Other areas of the market, we can go to kind of our watch list. This is kind of how I maintain the the day. Right. I mean, this is a starting point for me every week, where these names that are in gray are names that I tend to carry over from the previous week, right? So I kind of keep a watch list somewhat consistent from week to week, as long as the setups look pretty good. And that worked. And then of course, what I do as the week goes on, starting with Monday morning, right, I tend to add names as we go along, and then I put in yellow here any names that I add for the day. Again, lot of things to watch. I didn't take any of those trades that you see in the yellow today. I kind of, I had my hands full with, just keeping, the amount of positions that I have on. And there's just so many movers right now. Airbnb, I think, was one name that we talked about yesterday. I was just very pleased how it kind of caught the turn in this. But there's a lot of names that did this, similar pattern. Nice break higher. And this was not an earnings break, but this was just a nice move on strong volume, a little bit of a move back into support, and look at how well it held the support. So I kept watching this like over the last 3 or 4 days, and I did go long the other day, and in nice move. Nice follow through afterwards. Like another name that has nothing to do with this name, but kind of the same type of move here on top of the value areas. DBRG. This is Digital Bridge. This name's going to have earnings shortly, but same thing. Nice move, nice volume. Look at the little check back into the 20-day moving average, into the top of the February value area. See how these things all confirm? Right? That's why I have them in my charts. I think it's more powerful when you have a couple things, confirm for you like that. So that worked, very well. A couple of the charts. Shop. This was not a name that was on my watch list today. Somebody brought it up in the trading room today, and I just like that. This name really kind of stalled out for a bit, right? Consolidated. And there's nothing wrong with that in an uptrend. And if you look at where this is, it's above value for the year. It's also above value. Now, the one issue here is, and I mentioned this as I got into the trade, is that, it has some overhead supply it's got to deal with, right? And if you look here, this is a virgin point of control that it took out like right in the beginning of the day. And, it just kind of sat here. So my comment was, as long as it just kind of sits here, right, and it doesn't give it all back, then that's okay, and that's why I stayed in the trade that I put on today, which is over here. Starter swing, and it was already up 4%. So I'm not going to chase in any big size. I've learned my lesson, certainly in that. And then I just did a number of, I just think we're also going to have the CPI report next week. I did a lot of just taking off some exposure, and into strength. I mean, that's what we want to do. If you're a swing trader, taking off into strength, right, is a much better position to be in. I tried some Amazon today. It just didn't convince me enough, right? Amazon, since it had earnings, really hasn't done much. It's just been sitting here. So I'll revisit this. Anytime I try a trade and I decide that it's not for me by the end of the day, right? Because I don't want to just sit and accumulate positions, right? And I don't care, I don't have a, I'm pretty secure about what I'm doing in trading. It doesn't hurt me to admit that I'm wrong on a trade by $1. And we'll see if it can kind of hang out here and stay above its value area. Then I will revisit this and maybe look for the target up at 175.20, which is about 3% up on the 1 hour chart. Another name that we started to look at too, which again, another trader at Tribeca Trade Group brought to my attention, was this setup and shift for 4 payment. So I did not put this trade on, right? We'll do this backwards. We'll look at the 1 hour chart, right? It has to break 76.50 for me on the 1 hour chart, right? And then if you look at the, notice that there's a VPOC up here at 80, right? About 5% away. Right. And then if we move this, sorry, let me just click. I always have a habit of clicking in the wrong spot. But notice how bunched up the price action is here. Right. And then also notice the VPOC up here. So, and what we've programmed here, I should say what Web is programmed, because it wasn't me who programmed it. But notice that you could tell how far away those virgin point of controls are. Remember, that's an area where there's been a high amount of volume that price is not revisited, right? Take a look at what happened in this one, kind of a rejection. That's why sometimes I want to make sure that I'm taking a target there, right? So that if we can get out of this range, right, then I would be looking for a good chunk to take off there at that 81.27, which is about 7% away from the current price. Other names that I thought were pretty interesting. Still looking at some of these building equipment names. I find this is another impressive group that we have on our hands, right? I've talked a lot about the industrials, talked a lot about the transports, which have done very well. But I think, the home builders are looking really good. Just like I outlined, not exactly the same setup as the what was it? The Airbnb, right? But kind of, big volume higher, right? Little move down, and look at this, right? So nice turn here, and this thing looks like it wants new highs. This is Modine Manufacturing name, and again another type of like manufacturing slash industrial slash building, which we might as well look at what this chart looks like too. This is the home builders. Keep in mind, there's two home builder ETFs that I look at. XHB, which actually has a decent amount of retailing in there. So it's got Home Depot, it's got all those flooring names like AZEK, which had a blowout report. And it actually looks a bit better right now than ITB, which has more, even though it's called home construction ETF, this has more home builders in it. So I think actually some of these other names that go into, actually building a house rather than the actual home builder, like the construction materials and things like that, I think are actually looking, pretty decent. I still remain long builder. That's been moving in the right direction for me. The other name that I highlighted, I think in yesterday's video, was this BLD, which is very easy to remember, right? So out of the home builders, I like this top build, right? That's a nice move, out of the value area. So, again, there's a lot of these setups in different areas of the market. I think it's kind of interesting, some of these names that reported after the close. Expedia, I was looking for, this was a nice ramp into the close. Unfortunately, they announced that their CEO is leaving. We'll see if it can kind of recover from here. You're gonna notice that two VPOCs have been taken out. Now there's another one that lives down here at 131, but I don't know. It didn't seem like it was horrible. But the expectations are just set a bit higher. And same thing for Affirm, which was watching this one. I didn't trade it, but took out a VPOC here and reversed. Seems like it's hanging in there. Net is one that I think is really interesting. This is a name that I've had in the TTG trend portfolio. I got a little bit worried because it was up so much today, right? Just like, for example, Expedia was up a lot today too. And sometimes these names, then they kind of reverse on earnings, but you could see what this thing is doing. It took out a VPOC up here at 109.97, or call it 110. But, look at the move today. So that's going to go right up into this VPOC in here too. So, price searches these out. Price, especially on earnings, will search out where there's been, a high area volume, and it's kind of like we call them a bit of magnets. Right. So that's it for today. I thought the cyber names, again, there's just a lot of positives with some of this price action. Palo Alto, right? We talked about that one yesterday. Literally jumped out of the value area yesterday. And cyber had a good report today. And my favorite in the group is CrowdStrike, which long in the TTG trend portfolio as well. Pretty amazing. Just this little consolidation, and there it goes again. All right, and that was also a name that was on our watch list. A couple of energy names doing okay in there too. Snowflake had 3 inside days. I don't think it closed on the highs, but it's it's resolving higher. I think this is a must watch too, right? Notice that the VPOC up there, it's about another 5.6% away. So, that's a decent trade, in my opinion, for a short-term swing trade. All right, guys, that is it for today's recap. Again, marketwebs.com is where you can get the indicator yourself. You could get that right now for 30 days for free. Right. And then I think like I said, I think we're going to try to have a webinar possibly on Saturday just to answer any questions that for people who have signed up, and so that we can help and assist. Guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.